Yo, what is going on? Welcome to this podcast.
What is up?
How you doing, brother? Good to see you again.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah. I say good to see you again, but I see you like all the time, but it's always good to see you. So it's good to see you again.
So because of this podcast, it's kind of brought our entrepreneur journey together a little more. So now at lunch, I'll see you because it's the same office area that we're in. So it's pretty cool. It's good.
No, that's exactly what it is. It's like the entrepreneur experience is all about that. Like the stuff that you plan, the stuff that happens by accident, the stuff that happens because of connections you make. So I think that was kind of cool. That's kind of how we met, right? Like it just...
Absolutely. It was through networking. And
but
then
like
I did a meeting.
You and I didn't even meet at the same networking. It was like somebody who works for me met you at a networking group. Yeah. And she's like, you need to talk to Coach Joe. Yeah. And we hit it off kind of like immediately, Yep.
And there was someone that's like, dude, you have to meet him. You have to meet him. And I'm like, I love Gary V. Why do I need a...
I'm like Gary V on a budget. But yeah. Gary V is awesome. I love Gary V too. He's good.
There is a little bit of a secret inside that I'll say in doing coaching with Coach Joe. And that is that, well, do I reference you as Coach Joe throughout this? Or
well, Joseph? Technically now we're business partners.
Yes.
So you can say partner. Yeah, I don't know. Just
okay. Yeah, but on the inside, it's like, okay, it's not about just tips and tricks that you find on the internet. Yeah. So even for this podcast, where you will find tips and tricks and hear stories and be inspired, and moved people end up moving people, and that's our goal too, right? Yeah. So to share all that, but also there's this level of accountability when you have this actual in-person. Not just clientele and hiring a coach, but also a friendship. So now it's like, and now that we're in the same office area, it's like, oh, there he is. Oh,
did you do your action steps, right? Like, and then you're like, did you record those videos for me, Joe? I'm like, oh, shoot. Like that. Yeah. It's kind of like that, but it's fun because I feel like the reason why I gravitated to you is you're very actionable. Like, you know how you have some people...
What do you mean by that? Like, it's easy to tell me actions?
No. Or... Like, you take action when you know there's action to be taken, know? Cool. It's really tough because you have... I feel like you have two kinds of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs who are like the big idea person, but like, how do I get it done? So like, they just sit on a pile of good intentions, Oh, yeah. And then you have people that are just like super... in the details, in the weeds, and that's good. But sometimes they're like working on just things that keep them busy. So I think you need both, Yeah. And I feel like you're like that. Like you're a big vision person, but it's like I reference some of our coaching sessions, and you're like, no, I need some action steps. I'm like, yes, I like that. Get some action steps in there, Yeah. Because I'm also a very big dreamer, and sometimes our coaching sessions we're dreaming together. Like, whoa, let's bring it down. Let's get some action steps.
Holy moly, it's been 59 minutes. We need those action steps.
But we get the best results out of those sessions sometimes.
Where it's like, good because it's like it's good for your mindset. That would be cool to get into is mindset. It's good for your mindset to be aspiring and to have a desire. Yeah. It's like, what do you want? What's something that you're looking forward to? Yeah. And even in the world full of like, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, like what's holding you back, or what's the deal with all this social anxiety that holds you back? Right. And then if there was a way to get out of that, would you want to? What's something that you want? What's something you're looking forward to? And I get that a lot for my business working with you. So it's like, oh, for sure. There's miles down the road. Right. Well, if there's one thing I've learned as a business coach and as an entrepreneur who later on became successful, but also failed my first 8 businesses, and that's a podcast in itself, you know what I mean? Is that you got to start with a very strong vision of what you want for your personal life, because business is just a vehicle that kind of gets you there. Yeah. You either get a job and are limited, or you want unlimited potential and you build a business. It's just one's riskier over the other, but you're gambling for those higher rewards, Yeah. And if you do it right, there's a formula. You just have to do it long enough, and you get the rewards. And I think that, knowing what that is for you, like for example, in your personal life, like what is it that you would do if you had all the money in the world and all the time in the world because you have a business that works for you? Like what would you be doing instead of videography?
or at least running a videography business, you know?
Yeah, so I would be in it, but I would want to select what I want to do and when I want to do it.
Right.
So it's not reliant on me, and that's the spot I want to be in. And then also being able to travel with my family.
Boom.
You know?
And that's what it is. It's like the ultimate goal is you might have a business because you're passionate about something. Like I know you love videography. Like it's something you love.
There's this art, and it can become an outlet, and it's like a lot of people are like, it sucks sometimes because when I'm trying to give referrals to other people all the time, it's like my referral actually comes with the service when you book me, because it's like, and then someone's like, oh, you told me all these things, and it was as if I was selling myself,
right?
But they thought it as value,
right?
And then they're like, now what can I do for you? And I said, this is it.
Yeah,
this is my satisfaction, is like being able to share these stories.
And if you didn't have to make money doing that, you'd be like doing that for so many good causes, I think.
Yeah, that would be awesome too.
Because you just took a trip to Thailand, right?
Yeah.
Where you helped out a nonprofit, Bloom International, who we would love to put them on.
Shout out Bloom International.
Yeah, Bloom International, Rochelle and Amanda. Those are some awesome people that have a big heart for the Lord and for their cause, you know.
Yeah.
But what I was getting at is like, you know, most entrepreneurs are in an industry not because it's a passion that they have. Some are, like you. But the reality is they're doing it for a greater purpose, which you mentioned something like travel. And I'm pretty sure that's still surface level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is.
You know, because traveling is a great reward, but like for me,
it goes deep into quality time.
Boom.
For me.
With your wife.
Yeah.
You know, and then like, I know for me personally and for you, we share the same faith, but like, you know, my desire is that my life, my business, my family, the way my marriage is, the way I parent, glorifies God. You know what I mean? And no matter how that looks, which it might be ministry, it might be, hey, like, you know, make a bunch of money so that way during Christmas time, there's a street with a bunch of, you know, people that are poor and can't afford their electricity bills. I could just anonymously like pay for all the heating bills or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that, like I'm talking about that, I'm tearing up. Like that's what I want to do.
And you know what would be
guess
awesome?
who was that kid that lived in our house?
Oh,
You know
okay.
what I'm
We need to
saying?
get into your story.
But
that is definitely something I've thought of. Like, do you ever have like ownership mentality too soon? And you're like, oh, I want to buy out those buildings so I can rent it to my church or something like that. Like, you know, you want to provide something for someone.
Yeah.
Or secretly be the owners of my apartments that we're serving in. You know?
And so I think like when we start looking bigger picture like that of the possibility of what this business can do for me, I think that's when things start to shift. Because as humans, I feel like God gave us the mind of him. Like the Bible says we are created in his image, right? So we can kind of think like him a little bit. That's why we're the only creatures in the world that can invent and make something different, change the trajectory of our life. And so
and do podcasts.
It's like that. So and do podcasts. So going back to what I'm talking about, like once we know like, oh shoot, the business is just a vehicle to do that, I can figure this out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like if you don't have that higher purpose that you are really, really in tune with, you won't be motivated to figure out. And your business will sometimes just be a burden to you, you know?
And then what does that lead to?
Burnout. And that's the number one cause of business failure, according to Forbes, right? Like, yeah, and burnout comes with a lot of stuff. Yeah, what do they know, right? They just only been doing this for a while, but you know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, let's get into your story. Do you mind?
No, I don't mind. As long as you get into yours.
Okay.
How about that?
All right.
Cool.
Well, I'm curious. You mentioned how you used to live as a child.
Yeah.
So can we go from childhood and then I'll ask questions along the way, but then get into why you tried to start businesses.
Yeah.
And what led to those failing and then led to succeeding.
Yeah. Okay, childhood, just to kind of give the brief yet detailed, because you know some of the detail matters, is I was born in the Philippines. So how my parents met, it's become a joke. My mom was married to my sister's father. He was a naval officer.
This is confusing already.
Yeah. Right. So my older sister,
diagram.
Right. So I have two older sisters that are my half sisters, and my mom was married to their father. He was in the Navy, but that's how she was able to get from the Philippines to the United States. My dad was a French citizen, and he moved to the United States for his own personal reasons. I think it was education. Okay. Well, he was a pest control guy, who happened to service my mom's house when her husband, my sister's father, was on some type of military leave.
Oh my goodness.
Well, out of nowhere, my mom gets pregnant with me. Do you see what I'm talking about? Like that. So it was infidelity, right? You know, I don't know the straight story because it was really hard to get detail out of my mom. She grew up a very traumatic life in the Philippines as a childhood, sex slave. You know what I mean? That's kind of how things were back in Southeast Asia, So it was really hard to connect with my mom on that level because there was times where you just saw her emotionless, But that's a story I knew. Somewhere in there, somebody told her to get an abortion, but she chose to keep me. Then my mom and dad, they had to break up or divorce their wives, their spouses, because they were both married to other people when they had an affair and got me. And because of that, my mom lost her status and she had to move back to the Philippines to reapply because she's no longer married to the naval officer. And so I was born in the Philippines because she had to move back when she was pregnant with me. So that's why I was born in the Philippines. So I was there for a very young age. I mean, my mom was able to get her status and come back here when I was still somewhat of a baby. I don't know the exact age. They never really told me, but
at what
anywhere
point
between 1 and 2.
Did the military, what do you call him to you? Is he a stepdad to you?
I don't even know him.
The military guy? Oh. At what point did he find out?
Well, I'm pretty sure when he put 2 and 2 together, like, hey, how many months along are you? I was out,
Yeah.
But it was like
I
very
didn't know she was already
on.
in the Philippines then.
Well, it was early on. I think he came back and then it came out because she was pregnant.
Sure.
And maybe it was like too late to try to convince him it was his baby.
This is movie material.
Yeah, it's funny. But like, again, I'm just guessing some of this because my mom never really sat down and said, Joe, this is a story. I think there was an element of shame or just an element of maybe she was just learned with her PTSD just to shove things out and not say anything.
Where is she today?
She passed away in 2013. She's with the Lord now. But, she grew and developed a wonderful heart for the Lord. But it didn't come without, like, when we were kids, we were abused a little bit, and I say a little bit, to some people's standards, probably a lot, but they did the best that they could, in my opinion, based off of how they learned from their parents, where they were abused by them,
Oh, okay.
And so I grew up like that while going into a church thinking that this is the way God loves us.
Oh,
you know
my
what I mean?
goodness.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And then, so, I mean, that's just kind of getting to my childhood. As I grew up, we grew up in a very rough neighborhood in the United States. So it was like just a better poor than the Philippines. But
where?
Southeast San Diego, it's on Imperial. If there's anybody listening in Southeast San Diego, you know where a place called Encanto is. And that's a very rough part of the United States.
That's not the one in the movie.
No. It's not the one in the movie, but it's a very rough part of San Diego. A lot of gang activity and the stuff that I saw as a kid just because we were in the middle of it all. Never involved, but, we grew up so poor. Like, that's just, we grew up in the projects over there. So when I said, like, my passion is to go and help people pay their electric bills during the wintertime, it's because we lived in that situation, I remember sometimes we try to come home from church and the police has our entire complex blocked off because they're looking for a fugitive in there.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, so we couldn't go back in. So we slept in the station wagon up until about 3 or 4 in the morning, I think. That's a very vivid memory I had of that time.
Wow.
But so yeah, God really just like took me from what I call.
Yeah, how did you get out of there? Like,
well, in high school, got kicked out of my house.
Okay.
I think the 2 reasons. Number 1, I was kind of rebellious and I kind of wanted to leave, so I kind of just pushed the buttons. And by the age of 15, my dad's like, "Just get out of here." I'm like, "Cool, I'm gone."
Okay.
Because there was some religious abuse, physical abuse, and just we were totally poor. So I had like jobs while I was in school and doing somewhat to support myself. I was buying my own stuff, and I was like, you know what? Let me just go.
Okay.
I also suffered depression in there and some suicidal thoughts, just because of the environment. So I kind of like, this is not good for me.
Dude, that is a heavy life. Man.
Yeah. And if you know me now, like, I think some people could never guess that.
I would have never guessed that.
Yeah. Well, that's the power of like God just redeeming, me in that. Because
that's true.
Honestly,
that's a testimony to it.
Exactly. And I hated God for a minute because of the position I was in. So it was just kind of like, I don't know, the journey. It's really like so much detail, but I'm kind of giving the cliff notes, but I think that it's really easy to put together. But what started me on the entrepreneurial journey is this. I hated being poor. It was just plain and simple. Like, I hated not being able to have something I wanted because we just didn't have enough money. And some of these things weren't anything expensive or extravagant or anything like that. It was just like, I want a name brand t-shirt that wasn't passed down to me from somebody at the church because they knew how broke we were. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's embarrassing, you know? And going to school, having only 2 or 3 pairs of pants that I alternate for that whole entire year with holes in it, and shoes that I can't buy new because it's just not part of the budget. Like, I knew very soon or very fast that I was poor and I didn't like it. So I started like thinking like, well, let me assess the people that I see in my circles at church who actually look like they have money, and what are they doing? And guess what I found out? The majority of them were self-employed or owned a business.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing I wanted to be was a cop. You know what I mean? And I had a small stunt in my life where God allowed me to do that. But, you know, I think entrepreneurship is what God wanted me to do. And it's evident now. But I never started off easy. Like, I wish I could say, hey, I was like that overnight success on YouTube entrepreneur guy, but I'm not. Like, I remember saying, I'm not going to college. I'm just going to start a business. And I think
the game of life.
Game of life.
Skip college, go straight to career.
Go straight to career.
Those guys would always win.
And I was like, look, you put money into something that brings it back. So let me find something to do that. My knowledge was very, very basic. Like, there's a lot more to that, obviously, now that, you know, we're successful entrepreneurs. But I didn't get help. I didn't know how to ask for help. But I figured, look, if I get this gumball machine, because it started off with vending machines and gumball machines. If I get this gumball machine and I pay this much to put bubblegums in, but I can get ×5 ROI. Okay, if I get enough, I can live off of it and still pay. And that's kind of what I started doing. Unfortunately, there's so much more to business than just that. You know?
I was like the labor and the time.
The time. I was a busboy, maintenance. And so if I fast forward a little bit, I had 8 unsuccessful attempts at business, like endeavors. And when I say unsuccessful, some of them I just utterly failed because I sucked at it. Some of them I gave up too fast. Some of them I'm like, this is not what I want to do.
Okay, 2 sentences each. Yeah. What was like the first one?
First one was vending machines and bubblegum machines.
Okay, why did it fail?
Because I tried to live off of all that money too soon and I only had a few machines. So it was like either restock the machines or pay some of my bills.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay, and then 2?
Second one, if I do this all in order, man, it's going to be hard. Selling insurance. I sold insurance.
Okay.
And then
why'd you stop that one? Or why do you call it failed?
I gave up on that one.
Okay.
I was like, I just don't want to keep doing this anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it was just way too much work for me. And now that I think about it, I was like, that would have been so easy. Like, I could do that now. It was a mentality thing for me. Like,
yeah. But if there's no desire, right, then that's...
I had a desire to get rich.
Okay.
Right? Like, and that's another thing too. Like, it wasn't really to glorify God. It was just to kind of glorify my flesh. So I think that a lot of the struggles there, because I just had a lot of pride.
And did you even find glory in it yourself other than maybe the checks that would come in?
I feel like I had to convince myself that was the glory. Like, God, you want me to prosper so I can, but then it was like, I'm prospering just to show a fake life at times.
Okay.
That really sucked. And so in between that, I did like 4 or 5 different multi-level marketing companies.
Okay.
So, you know, they sell this big old, you know, dream. And there was a few that we actually did decent at, you know, but what I felt was like, I'm trying to convince people to live this life. And so I have to kind of fake it. I'm not saying that the products were bad or that even the structure's bad, because I actually like multi-level marketing. I have nothing against it.
Oh.
You know,
I'm not a fan.
You don't have to be. Yeah. You don't have to be. I mean, it's not for everybody.
Right. I think there are certain ways you can do it.
Yeah.
Like if you open up a business around it, then that way, like if something fails with that, you can still just bring out a new supply or something. That can be good. But.
Absolutely. I think I liked it because of what it taught me. Like all the skills that I like talking in front of people, being as articulate as possible,
Yeah.
being clear with my goals and my outcomes, and being able to explain that a lot of that came through the training of multi-level marketing companies.
Okay.
So
yeah,
honestly,
they're good at like those discovery calls and all those pitches and the marketing. Like they're good at teaching all that.
Right. It's just not a lot of people are successful because they're not willing to do what it takes. And it's kind of designed that way where it's like, the people that make a lot of money is because it's like an algorithm. Not everybody's going to do it. You're going to have people that don't do much, people that do mid work, and
you rely more on like getting people beneath you, don't you?
Yeah.
So it's more on like a leadership kind of thing.
Yeah, it is. And then whoever has a good leader, he can kind of influence a good change. But I will say this. Every organization, even our own business, there's somewhat of a pyramid type of structure. Like there's only one or two people really making a lot of money, and then it flows down to the workers.
Yeah.
Mid-level, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not horribly opposed to it. I just think that's good training, and some people do well. I know 3 or 4 people that
just
are like high earners in some.
The thing that I don't like in those things is when people try to convince you so much and they don't even truly believe in the product.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like, or they haven't even done a lot of research behind it to like, is this something I actually want for these people? So if it can be genuine to you, then have at it. Like that's awesome.
You know what I tell new business owners or people that are looking to build a business? Because I get a lot of calls of people like, hey, I just want to be an entrepreneur. I just don't know what. I'm like, okay, why? What skills do you have? What is this? And then sometimes it comes down to like, hey, you know what? You might want to join a multi-level marketing company. It might work for you, it might not, but there's a lot of good entrepreneurial training in there at a very low cost in some cases. Sometimes I advise people to do that, not because it's like you're going to be the next $3 million a year earner. That might be, who knows? But there's so many skills that I learned from it that I'm thinking like, hey, but I also try to position like, hey, like it's not a get rich quick. I try to do everything I can to make sure that, it's like you might want to. But I know 3 people that are very high earners in certain multi-level marketings. And I actually have a discussion with them. And like, if it works, great. If it doesn't, but if you just don't know what you want, start doing your research at what types of businesses are available,
Yeah.
So that's how I approach it.
Well,
I don't think I'll ever do a multi-level marketing again because I'm very good with what I do. And I feel like God has niched down my skill for this type of ministry, which I consider what I do a business and a ministry.
If you got involved with one of those ever again, you would probably be the one to start it at this point.
Possibly.
If there was.
But I don't have a desire.
Yeah.
I don't really like to sell products. I like to sell service. That's kind of my niche is service. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely like the service as well because of the creative that it comes with.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, man, I would love to get creative with a product.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, you never know. I might come up with something, know.
It's so simple for like coffee shops. It's so simple.
Oh, don't get me caught in coffee. I love coffee.
Dude, I love coffee. If I could only make videos for coffee,
Do you ever watch those SMRs with like they're just doing the espresso machine?
Yeah, the ASMR.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks so good. I want an espresso right now.
I watched like this 5-minute long video. This guy goes, hey, what do you want, wife? It's just at his house. And he has the whole setup. And then it just shows him like he put a camera on his chest or his head somewhere and you just see it like first person and he's making it.
So cool.
And it was just 5 minutes, no talking. And I watched the whole
like
thing.
Almost in heaven looking at it, like you can almost taste it too. I'm like, I like this.
But anyways, like my point is like the product is always there.
Yeah.
You can always shoot it. Like you don't have to put so much makeup on, for that, or I don't know. It's just simple. Like send a lot of emails.
Yeah. Well, coffee is one of those things where you don't even have to have the best taste in coffee. You just have to be in a good spot with good branding.
True.
A good look. At least some variety.
And a good enough business strategy.
Boom.
Because you don't want to burn out.
Exactly. I was watching this thing. I don't know what I was watching. I think a few nights ago. And it was like the guy in New York. He has like a coffee stand. and he's only open for a few hours. He sells out of everything, and he makes a good living doing that. And the coffee is like $1.50, and there's a loyal following of people that do it because it's about consistency with people.
Yeah.
Convenience and consistency. Have you ever noticed that in some of your clients? Like, they'll pay or they'll take something less for value for the consistency at times?
Well, because like when you do a service, it can be really difficult and a lot of time just for like one video or one thing. But if you have something consistent and they know exactly what to expect, then it tends to do a lot better. And that consistency pays off on their end too with like you save time, you get really efficient, and
people will pay you a premium for that.
Yeah.
They'll pay you a premium.
So
that's why I feel like a lot of people who are only artistic, it's really hard for them to make a lot of money in the business world.
That was me. I'm brand new to this.
Yeah.
Like, or at least
you're doing a great job though, man.
Oh, well, thanks.
Like your consistency has really improved.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
On the business aspect of things. I would never tell you how to do video because that's just not where.
I mean, honestly, like some of that has kind of plateaued a little bit. Like I learned enough. And then when a problem arises within the business and I can solve it or there's a new piece of tech, then I'm paying attention to that. But at the same time, like I'm not researching new cameras or anything. Yeah. You know, it's like that even though I want that, it's just, it's not good for the business. And so I try to hone in on like, what do people value?
Boom.
What do they value? What do they want in their business? And a weird thing is they like big cameras.
It probably that's like tangible value to them. If they see big, then it's like, oh, this guy must know what he's doing.
But it could be worse. It could be a way worse end product.
So get a better camera that's big.
Yeah.
Like you can do that.
And because there's just that mentality of like the bigger the camera, the more professional you are.
Yeah.
Even though now I have the iPhone 15 Pro, not a plug for them, but they shot their whole announcement for the new Max.
Yeah.
On iPhone.
Whoa.
Nobody knew until the end.
Well, they're
and so it's like it's here.
Yeah.
Cell phone quality, it's here.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's competitive to actual cinema cameras, but there's just so many other variables, and that's the part that I sell more of. Is like it's more about the creative behind the camera than it is what camera you're using.
Exactly.
So
exactly. Well, I think that the fact that you're aware of what people like value as a tangible thing, if you can give them the value of your skill plus, hey, by the way, I'm a legitimate guy in your eyes because I have a big old camera.
Yeah.
You know, it helps the experience. It helps the experience. Plus, it's kind of cool to see like a big. Remember the days where like camcorders were like these big old things that people had to.
Oh yeah, they used to be big and then they got small.
I'm mid-30s, so I still remember those big camcorders. People, only the rich guys would come to the park and be like, "Hey, I'm videotaping."
Because there was a whole VHS in there.
Yeah, and it was just huge. I kind of miss those old days. Just those old experiences.
They're back for a little bit.
Yeah,
like they'll still sell those cameras. And
it's like an experience.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people, even in the film world, that will have those cameras to shoot behind the scenes content.
Whoa, okay.
And that just to have that nostalgia with the way it looks.
Poor cameraman. I mean, carrying that weight. I don't know. I don't know. But
all right, kind of coming back. Eighth one. Your eighth failed.
My eighth failed business was gotta go back in my memory. It was a multi-level marketing company.
Oh, okay.
It was called Nerium as skincare. It was
you were in a skincare business?
My wife kind of wanted to do that one.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So I was like, let me support you.
Okay.
There was a lot of legal things that happened with that company, so they just kind of got out of it.
Okay. So that failure was really outside of your hands.
Yeah, but I mean, we know people now that are still really big in it, right? Like, it didn't shut down the company. We just... I think...
losing integrity.
This is my thought. I think my wife and I were just weary at that point. Like, are we just sucky business owners? Are we just sucky entrepreneurs that we can't make anything work?
Yeah.
That's kind of what we felt. So I started working for a guy that cleaned air ducts, dry vents, and chimneys. And it was a commission opportunity. There was already enough work to give me like $4,000 or $5,000 a month. And then, back in those days, my expenses weren't too high. I was like, whoa, $5,000 a month. Then my wife was watching some kids at the house. So we finally were able to have some financial stability. It felt kind of good for a minute. Except for 3.5 or 4 years later, we were just having challenges with the guy. You know, expectations weren't met, things like that. And a check bounced, you know, and that's where we're like, oh dang. This was December of 2014, right before Christmas. A really big commission check bounced. Yeah. Oh, the funnest business I did was I teamed up with a guy and we laminated surfboards in San Diego.
Dude, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know how to laminate surfboard.
Dude, that's random.
It's kind of fun. Yeah, it just popped in my head. I had to say it or else I forgot, you know. But so check bounce, and we just have to make a decision. We're like, you know what? We've kind of been doing this, and it's not working anymore. My wife was a bit scared because I mentioned going off and doing it on our own, but doing the air ducts, drive-ins, and chimneys. Like, look, if we could do it well for this guy, I can just see if those clients want to come over to me. There's already a lot. And
so
you
you're
can do all the admin.
What do you call this? Like the technician trying to get into the what's the the entrepreneur, right? Yeah. Isn't that the E-myth?
The E-myth, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But funny thing, because the E-myth played itself out. I was a technician, happy to be the entrepreneur and the manager, and then the first year, guess what happened? I was burning out.
Oh man.
And my wife was like, I've seen this before. We're about to fail this one. Get some help. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I joked that like she had threatened to divorce me, but literally in my heart, I felt like if I missed this one, it's going to be bad for my marriage. You know what I mean? So I joke, but at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, it's not going to be a pretty marriage if I fail this one. I don't think it's going to, you know. So I kind of was motivated out of fear to go ahead and, you know, get some help. So her brother was getting business coaching, and we met with that business coach, and she became a business coach, and we built a business that was able to work without us in a matter of 2.5 to 3 years.
That's fast, dude.
Yeah, it was huge. Wow. I'm like, I've never felt this level of success ever in my life, to where I had managers and technicians and
you had
staff.
this like business partner that was already in the game. Is it Carrie?
No, Coach Carrie was not in the game. She just became my business coach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She's my business partner now because I became a coach, and we're like, dude, let's get this together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So
awesome.
Those are the Cliff Notes versions. Obviously, there's a lot of in between in that. And obviously, you got to follow this podcast because our stories are going to just kind of come out.
You'll see it start to grow too. And for me, like, for me, for sure, I feel like I'm still at that beginning stage, and I'm like itching this dissatisfaction and this vision and this, I want to change things in the social media, in the video production world. I want to make it more accessible. I want people to have good quality. I'm sick and tired of like, going to these, if you have a job instead of, you're not an entrepreneur, but you're watching these training videos and they're just so boring, so terrible.
If I know you well, you're like, I could do this better.
Yeah, I've seen some really good ones too.
I could do this better.
The best kind is use entertainment for that.
Let me let you guys know, if you're listening, you're very humble because you're really good at what you do.
Oh, well, thanks.
You are extremely good, and he's also a great entrepreneur. But if this can encourage all you people who are watching, is no matter what level of entrepreneurship you're in, there's always going to be a healthy level of dissatisfaction. That's kind of what keeps going. That forces that good change year after year. Because if we stay stagnant, then we lose, right?
And that's the thing that, like, going to a lot of your courses and in-person seminars and stuff, it's like, in which you can buy some of those courses online, right?
Yes.
You can join like the Facebook group or what? How are you doing that?
I have a private Facebook group, and then very soon, I think Q2 of 2024, I'm going to actually have courses that I sell.
Okay, so depending on when you listen to this, those would be the courses that I shot?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, you shot all those courses. At least the beginning and the intros and outros for each section.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, then after that, it's like me on Zoom actually explaining it and interacting.
In the weeds and in the depths. And
and I'll have worksheets and everything like that. The cool thing is it'll have our 6 steps, but I'm going to keep adding to it. So it's a really cool program, especially for startups that just cannot afford a lot of money. And it's like, hey, for $25 or $50, depending on a package, we're still figuring out the price, so don't quote me on this. But I can have access to all the online material,
That's awesome.
And
Because that's some really good stuff on there.
It's some really good stuff.
I'm editing this and I'm like, I'm happy because now I can like learn those 5 ways and this and that.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah. And I'm very eccentric too. Like I get really passionate when I explain it. Just even when there's nobody watching, I'm in front of the camera, I'm like watching myself. I'm like, yes, I'm getting really motivated, you know? So,
but if you're out there too and you know Coach Joe and you're in the area, there is nothing better than to actually do it in person because of the accountability that comes into play.
Yeah.
And you can go and learn all the information, but what's that good for if it's not applied?
Yes.
So like,
well, what I always say, you can sit on a pile of good intentions, but if you do nothing, right? Or there's another saying like, what doesn't get measured doesn't get mastered. All that requires action. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In entrepreneurship, there's no rules that says if you do this, this, and this, you are guaranteed for success. For some people, is you got to do it long enough and make the necessary changes throughout, and then success will come in due time. Like, I wish I could snap my fingers for everybody, but like everybody's experience is different.
True.
And their journey is different.
Yep.
You know? So.
Yeah. And where I was getting with those seminars too is like that, there's that formula.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's dissatisfaction
times vision times first step.
Oh, yeah. Times first step or action step or something.
Taking your first steps, which is action. Yep.
Like, what was the letter, though? Was it an S?
FS. First step.
Okay.
Yeah.
Equals.
Oh, it's greater than.
Oh, no, resistance to change.
Yeah, greater than resistance to change.
Yeah, there's.
Yeah. Do you want me to explain that formula?
Yeah, because that's been resonating with me and it helped me to form my vision for the company.
Sure.
Outside of just like it being a vehicle for what I want to do personally.
Right, right. Well, I'm glad you brought up that formula because I think that not only applies to just entrepreneurs, but anybody in general looking to change. So it's the formula for change. And we all know that as humans, we're not people that get excited to change because change means growth. Growth means pain.
Yeah.
Growth means you got to learn something that makes you uncomfortable. So we always have a resistance to change naturally.
Yep.
So in order to be greater than that, you need to put a good formula together. Number one, you have to be healthily dissatisfied with where you're at. You will never change if you love being comfortable. You have to be dissatisfied with your situation. So some people can be comfortable being on welfare, but to what point does it really make you uncomfortable? I hate being poor. Like, I've been poor long enough. I hate being poor.
I don't want to have to write off all of my stuff.
Boom.
You know?
Boom, yeah. So dissatisfaction times vision. Vision, people think, oh, it's just I want to be someone who travels. No, this vision has to really resonate with your purpose in life. Like, it has to be such a strong vision attached to something so great, greater than yourself, that when you are really like eating it metaphorically in business, your vision keeps you like, okay, I got my eye on the prize.
Yeah.
Eye on the prize. Eye on the prize.
Yeah.
Like, if I fail, my kids will go hungry. If I fail, those people in Philippines that I want to build orphanages for are going to have to depend on somebody else if they come, but not me, because I'm going to fail them. You know what I mean?
And that makes the vision so great because it has
God.
the high stakes. Like, what happens if nobody does this, or what happens if I don't do this?
Yeah. Well, to be transparent, this year was one of the hardest years personally, marriage-wise, and business for me.
So if you're listening, this is 2023.
2023. That vision, if I didn't establish a strong vision that's attached to a personal purpose, a godly purpose for me, I would have given up. I'm here to tell everybody, as a business coach, as a very successful entrepreneur, there are many times this year I literally was in a dark moment wanting to give up because it was really hard. It was really hard.
Yeah.
So dissatisfaction times vision times first step, you got to do something about it. You got to take action. Whether it's, okay, learn a skill that you have to learn to get to that vision, get a business coach, get a mentor, take some courses, but you got to take a first step or just, calling that client. You know what I mean? Starting your LLC. You know what I mean? Like,
there you go.
Doing a first step
Launching
that gets
a website.
Exactly. Talking to that potential strategic partner because that person has a bunch of people on their client list that could also use what you do, and you could complement each other.
That's always a good one.
Yes, it is.
If you could just first list out your strategic partners and then just network with those guys or find out where they are.
Exactly. Find out where they are. Look at that. And then hang out where they are.
Yeah.
For me, it's sometimes golf courses.
So here's a live question, though.
Yeah.
So I have strategic partners, and if you're a web designer and you need video and you're in the Kansas City area, you're a strategic partner with me.
Yeah.
However, I dabble in some web design, and I have certain qualities that I would approve, and I would love to not do as much web design, but it's because my grand vision for JT Visuals is for online presence for brands, like of a certain quality.
Right.
So, like, I start to get picky with like who they are. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Does that like stop me, or is it like? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, like, I think yes and no. And again, this is just based off of the surface description that you've given me, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes you got to look into it and just really know. But I'll give you an example. Some of my strategic partners are other business coaches.
Okay.
For a few reasons. As a business coach, sometimes our strengths in a certain area are somebody else's weakness as a business coach.
Okay.
So one strategic business coach that I partner up with is somebody who focuses on management training. Do I do management training? Yes. But my focus as a whole as a business coach is the overall health of the business and to help the entrepreneur lead and build the business so I could work without him. So it's like, look, we're both business coaches. We could do the exact same thing. However, you're slightly focused on the managers and that's all you want to do versus I love working with the entrepreneurs and the executive team. We can totally refer each other out. And we do. We
so it's more
literally do.
Like you got to have those conversations.
Yes. And I think for you, there's so many different videographers, but a lot of them you all have slightly different focuses.
Right.
Like we know one that doesn't want to do weddings.
Right. Yeah, I am not in the wedding game.
That's you.
Yeah.
You're not in the wedding game. Somebody else is like, I'll totally do weddings.
Yeah. At first I started doing that.
Yeah.
Because it was where the money was.
Right.
But then I was just chasing money.
Let me tell you this. If you start giving that person weddings, a lot of it, do you think they're going to want to also refer you work?
If I give
if you build a good relationship with that person, videographer to videographer, and you're like, let me give you all my wedding people because that's not what I want to do.
Oh, yeah.
And
absolutely.
then that person, good relationship, if there's a niche that they don't like, who do you think they're going to refer those people to?
Yeah, I'd be happy. Yeah.
Right? So as entrepreneurs, sometimes we're like, no, our competition is, it's like, dude, keep them close. Keep them really close.
Have that collaboration mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I definitely know my weaknesses in the web design side of things. And so,
for sure,
to partner up for that area of things would be really amazing too.
Yep, for sure. So,
but usually, like on a website, they need videos, whether it's a website video to welcome them, or like testimonials, or it's a background of their business.
Right.
So that tends to be strategic, but
for sure.
And then I could feed them like web design things that fall on my,
Well, that fall out of your context of doing web design. I mean, what if it's such a complex one? We're like, dude, this is going to take me away from what I'm good at. So let me refer it to. We have good buddies that are in the, we could X, Y, and Z. Just send them to those three people.
Right.
So.
And I see myself getting to the point because I'm trying to keep the main thing, which is video.
Well, you can hire out for that. So. You can find somebody to join your team that can do that.
Yeah, dude. I think the same way for social media.
Yeah.
Because I think social media management would also be good strategic partners. However, they don't fall to the quality and guidelines and really beliefs of where I stand with social media.
Yeah.
And that's because I think that it should be more value than an ask.
Sure.
And it's not about being a billboard.
Yep.
Now, most of the social media management people out there that at least I've run into in this area, all they're doing, really they're just a graphic designer scheduling on your behalf.
Yep.
So then it's full of just graphic design and it gets like 1 or 2 likes each.
Right.
So.
No, that's cool.
But I'm like, if they're willing to shift their methods, I would love to train them or teach them and then become a partnership. So.
Yeah. And I think those are great ideas to bring value to what you do. Sometimes we have to park it for a little bit and build out the foundation of what we're good at so that we can make money. Because at the end of the day, you need provision for the vision, right? So if you have a business with a lot of great ideas, but you're so sporadic in a lot of things that we do, which I'm guilty of that many times, the money is very diluted, but once you start niching down into the things that you're the best at, that's where you make money. And then that money will allow you to start something different or add a value once you have the foundational pieces together,
Right.
you know.
Like I always like that restaurant. What is that called? Hawaiian Bros.
Hawaiian Bros, yeah.
Like their menu, there's like barely anything.
Simple.
It's simple.
Yep.
And then I can see them adding on later.
Yeah.
But like, I was trying to think of the same mentality. Like just start with like three main things.
It makes the choice easy. People sometimes go there because it's like, I'm not going to be bombarded with a large menu. I don't have to sit down. I can just pick. I already know what I want. There's a hamburger chain in a good part of the Southwest called In-N-Out.
Yeah, I want to.
And every time I go to San Diego, I eat me some In-N-Out. If you guys know about In-N-Out, make sure you comment on that, right? So,
yeah.
But man, In-N-Out's so good. But you go there, there's menu 1, menu 2, menu 3. That's it.
Oh,
they have secret menu items, but you have to know about them.
Okay. Well, that's just fun.
That's just fun.
Yeah, that's creative.
But you go in, there's like, I want a number 1, a number 2, a number 3. That's it. Yep. Number 1 is a double. Number 2 is a cheeseburger. Number 3 is a hamburger. And that's it.
And I've done a lot of graphic design too. And that's one thing is like, usually the feedback you get is put this on there too. Oh, we should include this. Oh, we should include this. Make that big. Wait, this is too small. Make that big. And then everything's big and everything's on there. And you try to say so much that you end up saying nothing.
Right.
And I think that can be translated into, you know, the way I run my business and stuff too. Yeah. And I've heard another analogy where it's like, would you trust the multivitamin or would you trust the one that's solely this vitamin, like vitamin D?
You want to talk about vitamins? I'm all about that right now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, but we don't have to get into that. But yeah. So
did we finish? Let's see. We were at, what made you start Action Coach?
Oh, okay. So Action Coach. Well, I started getting coaching and I saw what it did for my business. So I didn't have to do anything in my business. I mean, I did it because I wanted to. I did my team meeting Mondays, managers meeting Wednesdays, and I went out there and I was just networking a lot. Okay. And then I was helping other people with their businesses based off of what I learned. I'm like, I could do this. I love it. I love teaching. I love empowering. I love influencing people. And so I looked at my coach and I said, hey, I'm going to either join your team. I'm going to go create my own brand. I don't think I was that blunt, but I'm just, like I said, these are Cliff Notes versions. Yeah. I don't think she wanted me to be a part of her team because I think she vowed that she wouldn't. As a matter of fact, she's coming March for Growth Club. Let's get her on here.
Okay.
Let's get her on here.
Yeah, let's do it.
But it was just one of those things where it's just, I kind of forced my way in a very gentle way. Obviously, we get along very well. She said somewhere along the lines of, okay, get 4 clients. And if you can get 4 clients within a month or 2, we'll talk. Dude, I got them in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, what was your first step to getting those? Because
I just went to people I knew that I was already helping. I said, hey, I'm going to start charging you. Are you cool with that? And I'm like, dude, yeah, of course.
Huh. Okay.
I wonder why you didn't charge me in the beginning. I was like, that was a BFO like, oh, shoot. You know, if you just ask for money, you'll get it, especially if you give value to people.
Yeah.
So I was like,
there's so much value in it.
I got my 4, Coach Carey. So I started working
Was that in San Diego?
In San Diego.
Okay.
And so when I moved out here to Kansas City in 2021, we sold that business that she helped us with. I had a pile of cash, bought some real estate, did some flipping.
Not the coaching one.
No, the air duct cleaning one. And then
do you have when you sold it, was it just a lump sum or did you have
No, residual? We took a lump sum and then got some payments going through. And then part of the contract was that I became their business coach. So it's kind of like I'm getting paid.
Okay.
Yeah. What I love is that we sold it to a company that was also Coach Carey's client. So we trusted them. We built a relationship for 3 or 4 years, and it just felt we had other people wanting the business, but we're like we'll take this small cut so that we can kind of
Is that business still going?
Oh yeah, I'm coaching them,
dude.
They're doing great.
I didn't know if you were still coaching or
Oh yeah. 3 years later, I'm still coaching them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome because usually that's what I hear after someone sold a company.
Yeah.
Is that company goes under. That's usually what I hear.
Yeah, it could be like that. I just I think that's the reason why I chose them because I knew that they could do well. Her and her husband owned an HVAC company.
Okay.
And I'm like, this compliments, and we know how they worked. We had the same business coach. We were networking in the same place. I was like, it just makes sense.
Okay.
My wife was on board. I mean, I do everything I can, literally as with me and my wife, basically. Yeah. Those decisions that we make are together. But so I became a business coach. Then in 2021, moved to Kansas City, opened up a firm here, and I said, hey, let's become business partners to my coach. And she agreed.
Okay, and then you moved here and you didn't know anybody.
Nobody.
So how did you get started with that? Or like, what was your first thing you
First thing I did is I joined 2 credible networking groups. One BNI and another one called the ACA.
Okay.
Which is growing.
Did you have ACA in San Diego too?
No. No, that's strictly, I think, a Midwest thing.
You just Googled this?
Well, I called around. I just started to talk to a lot of people. I'm like, hey, what's a good networking group? I already knew BNI was one because I was part of a BNI in San Diego.
Okay.
So BNI was like, and then I was going to do 2. So I networked like crazy, did one-to-ones, and just built relationships right away. That's caused me to be now 3 years in. I know more people and I'm more connected with people in Kansas City than people who lived in Kansas City their entire life.
Probably me. Maybe step into Raymore and that's my territory. But
that's cool. But if
I didn't know the roads of Kansas City. I grew up like suburb of Kansas City. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't drive into the city much, even though I grew up around here. A lot of
Kansas Cityans are like that, dude.
Yeah.
And I drive everywhere.
It wasn't until I got married and then I didn't mind my wife Rose being a backseat driver or like side seat driver or whatever, but because I didn't know the roads. Oh, this one's a one-way, by the way. Like, oh shoot.
Yeah, especially in downtown, right?
Yeah.
Well, my wife and I lived in downtown San Diego, I think, for 2 years, and we learned nothing but one-ways. I mean, my wife got in a car accident because she missed a one-way street.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. So we're very, and that was with our first daughter. She was pregnant with our first daughter.
Oh man.
Yeah. Crazy. Another story. But what about you, dude? We talked a lot about me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's what I like to do. I like to
I know.
ask
but I
questions.
do too. I like to ask questions, so you got to allow me to ask questions, bro.
Sometimes I feel like I say I too much, Yeah. But then I'm like,
well. But in this case, I give you permission to say I.
Oh, okay.
Because we want to know the Jared Taylor.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
Well, first of all, I think let's talk about your business name because it's so unique.
It's JT Visuals without the I. Because there's more than meets the eye.
You guys got that? So that's awesome.
There's more of a story behind that I will not ever share.
Okay. That's
on
yours.
A mic.
It's
on a mic.
Okay, I'm itching to know now.
So if you need to know, then you got to talk to me in person. But it's I'm just leading you on too. It's not really that exciting.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, you made it sound exciting. Look at that. You're a really good salesperson. Look at that.
That's just marketing. No,
that's marketing.
Yeah. So. Okay, so I grew up in a Christian family, and I was kind of dragged to church, but I didn't really know any better. And growing up during that time and stuff, I experienced homeschool, I experienced Christian school, and I experienced public school.
Oh, you got all 3.
I hit all of them, and so sometimes I like to joke about homeschoolers or private schoolers, but it's because I was one of them. And during all that phase, though, like I have 5 other siblings, so there's 6 of us total, same dad and same mom. And
you know how blessed you are to have that?
Yeah. Okay. We were not rich, but we were rich in family and in faith.
Yeah.
And that was a perspective shift after I got older. But during that phase, I'm the third one. So I like to joke that I'm the first middle.
The first middle.
But that came with my dad was way more inspiration. It's crazy that he inspired little parts of himself for all of us.
Yeah.
And the part that I took was the technology side and the video side. So he comes home with one of those camcorders, and he always recorded home videos, and that was such a big thing, and we would watch them.
Wow.
Put in, you remember when you could do home videos, you would record it and then put it straight to the TV?
Yeah.
It's like nowadays, we have our phones and it's even more accessible. At the same time, it doesn't really combine. Like, a tape, you can have multiple clips and then just watch it.
Yeah, like the VCRs, remember that? It's like, and then it's like, and then the next movie, and then the next movie. Yeah, I remember that.
So, that's a little side invention I would love to create, is something that can bring that back. But anyways, so we would play around with the cameras all the time, and then we watched Star Wars.
Oh.
And Star Wars was a huge inspiration for me, and it was just really cool to watch. I think a lot of people that like Star Wars get it.
I'm not one of them because I didn't grow up with a TV, so I know it was never
okay.
like,
Yeah. We had those huge or the tube TVs that were heavy,
Yeah, yeah.
I remember the ones like we
had
had
to like
the ones,
do the antenna thing.
Yeah,
yeah,
and like stand there, like
I can't see it. I can't see it. You guys suck, right?
And it's funny. It's like those were the days, but we really hated it.
Yeah,
during the
for
time.
Sure.
Anyway, so yeah, we created Star Wars Episode 7 before Disney bought it and created Star Wars Episode 7. So I got into the special effects. I was like, dude, sound effects. I put all that in there from a VHS.
Wow.
And then I imported it into a computer and then did the sound effects and then re-exported it back into a VHS.
Wow.
And that was the world that I grew up in just for fun. And then we would make little home videos.
So videography goes way back for you.
It goes way back.
That is so cool.
Now,
and it's like clearly because you enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And in the meantime, I was growing up around music too. So that's a huge background,
cool.
But that's like a side story.
So you are a musician though, by the way, right?
I'm what?
You are a musician, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the route I ended up taking.
You're a pretty good musician too. I've seen you. At your I stalked you at your church videos.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's like, that's a pretty cool lick on the guitar.
I have an ear.
Yeah.
I can hear things.
It's your artistic side of.
I had trouble learning piano and reading sheet music because I would accidentally memorize it. Like, oh man, I just want to learn to play this. And so then I couldn't read the music because I wasn't relying on it. I was relying on what I knew from trying it. So
I think I'm like, because I'm a musician too.
Yeah.
Probably not as good as you, but still, it doesn't matter.
We could jam.
I just feel like I love to create rather than just follow a script.
Oh, yeah.
That's my brain goes, okay, cool, I'm bored. It would sound much better like this,
And you got to learn like what's wrong and what doesn't fit.
Exactly.
And then you start to learn the scales and then like when you can break rules and stuff.
Major, minor scales, all the things. Yeah.
I do always say like you should copy the original just to like get in their head and understand it.
Right.
And then like if you're doing worship music or whatever kind of music you're into, do it the real way first.
Yeah.
Like if you truly want to appreciate it. And then after that, you can add your own flares and decide to not even do it in general.
Yep.
But that really teaches you a lot. And I always try to do that, even with video. So I try to mimic and then I flare out.
Right.
And something I tried to mimic too, going back to Star Wars, I learned how to go frame by frame. Like I would convert a video into 30 pictures per second.
Whoa. Okay, you're speaking Chinese to me, but I think I'm catching on.
So yeah,
it's like those old school where like movies used to be like just different pictures or something like that.
Yeah, so I mean, video is just a bunch of pictures together,
moving fast.
So like this podcast, if you're watching on YouTube, shout out if you're watching on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's 24 frames per second that I'm doing. So that's 24 pictures per second.
Wow. Okay.
On the camcorder, I think it was set to 30 frames per second. And so there's 30 pictures.
Each second
to edit a lightsaber in there.
Oh my!
And there's 2 clicks each. So imagine like 10 seconds doesn't feel like that long, but it is a really, really long time when you're like doing this tedious task. And that's when I learned I had the patience for it because I wanted to see it and what it looked like. So I was adding the sound effects and the lightsabers.
So this sounds exciting, but in my mind, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of work. Like
it is.
I would never want to do that personally.
Yeah. I mean, it's way easier nowadays if you just set yourself up for success.
Sure.
Like when you shoot it.
Yeah.
With markers, and now it's like automated trackers. There's still a lot of like,
I've seen you edit a little bit. I'm like, whoa, this is a lot of work still.
Yeah. And well, now I just got fast at it.
Yeah.
So it just becomes routine. Yeah. And then that's just led me into, I chased down the music route and, I think it was the right thing and it was what God had for me, but I thought it was my lifelong thing and I thought it was my calling forever. And that's the thing, like a calling can change.
Yeah.
And so I went into Colorado and learned, I lived there for a year, got a certificate for worship ministry leadership, and then came back. I was like, I'm not going to say yes. No. If my home church asks, I am not going to. I need to go somewhere else. Guess who asked?
Let me guess. Your home church asked. And you didn't say no.
Well, the guy that called like really believed in me, and I was like, yeah, I like him.
He touched your heart.
So
I used to be a worship leader too. You know how I got into it?
No.
Hey, we need somebody. Just can you fill it in? And then I got stuck. Woo, that was an experience. Yeah.
Well, I got into it, but people in the church world get really picky when it comes to music.
Yes.
And it kind of annoys me. It's like, put your praise over your preference. Like it's okay if you want to go home and just say, oh, this isn't my preference, but I did appreciate it. Like,
yeah,
I don't like that they're using hymnals and the lighting wasn't that creative.
Yeah.
But then,
you're
like,
it doesn't even matter though.
Like, it doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, unless you're like not being genuine about it.
Sure.
So either way, whatever side you're on for that, I just learned that people were so picky.
Yeah.
And at the same time when I had that job, I was wearing all the other hats. And one of those hats was video. And so that's where I got like all the bad video out of me.
Yeah. You practice there. Yeah.
Doing testimonials and, several random things, promotional content, highlight videos where you just like put it to music about an event that you went to. And it's like, these have kind of become the part of the staple of what JT Visuals is all about now.
Yeah.
But I do it in such a very strategic way.
Right.
Instead of just, shooting in the dark.
Yep.
So that's really how that came to be. And then, went and helped start a new church. And then that's the church I'm a part of now. And I started on staff with them right when I started JT Visuals.
Right.
As an LLC. It was during COVID.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So like,
I remember that story. Yeah.
It was like 2 weeks of like, whoa, I'm getting clients. Yeah, this is awesome. I'm on this app called Thumbtack. People are requesting it. Whoa, I just shot a video and made $500 for just showing up with the camera and recording some court hearing thing. It's like, this is awesome. I can make money doing this. And this place is legit. It's big. It's like, these are business guys.
Yeah.
It's like, this is awesome. And then they come up to me afterwards and they're like, hey, I don't know if they let you know, but we were hoping to get some testimonials about this meeting. And I was like, okay, $300 more. Okay. And they just said yes. And I was like, dude, this is awesome.
Yeah. I'm making money.
Yeah, I'm making money. And then my church calls and they're like, or no, it was all the shutdowns.
Oh, yeah.
And then my church calls and they're like, we got to go online. And I was like, I think I was made for this.
Yeah.
So I actually got hired by them.
God like perfectly positioned you.
Was.
Like if you, and you had to be obedient to his word to do that and do all those things. Like all that stuff that you did, like prepped you for it.
Seriously, all glory to God.
Amen.
Because like at a time where a lot of people were losing jobs, I gained it.
Dude, that's awesome.
I did lose clients though. Like like those clients, and like there were way less leads because people were, they didn't know about their own business if it was going to make it or not.
Right, right.
Now, it was the push for online content, but it was also the push for Zoom, and it was the push for all the other things for do-it-yourself.
Yeah.
And so they didn't want to, at least where I was, they didn't want to hire so much. But I did start live streaming and learning all that stuff with my church, and then now they're a client of mine. So it's really awesome, and continued relationship. It's really good, and that the pastor at that church is the one that called me at the other church.
Nice.
So we have this long relationship, and I think that we'll bring him on the podcast at some point.
Hey, Pastor, do you want to be part of the podcast? I know you're watching this
Pastor Sean Petrie.
Pastor Sean.
So
and I actually met him at the Bloom Gala, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I met him there. We had a brief conversation. I think he was at the Bloom Gala, was he?
I don't know. I was running around.
Okay, maybe not. Yeah. Don't fact check me on this. I've been to lots and lots of events, so I think, That's cool.
Really essentially how I got started. And then it just came from there, and I was learning leadership while I was working at the church, and how to be a developer of people over just doing tasks and over just being a leader that tells people what to do.
Right.
So a developer is supposed to go 3 levels deep, and then it just starts sustaining and compounding and repeats. So it's cool. Like you're making this developer culture to where there's like always some sort of apprentice or like someone that can come into it, and it just happens. So I'm not totally there yet as like a developer, but I've got that mentality and training from it, and it's brought into my business because of that leadership model. So even at the church currently, like where I serve, I coach the leader.
Oh, Coach Jared. Look at that.
So
that's awesome.
But that's really awesome. It's a big passion of mine. Like when there's a meaning behind what you're doing, it has this certain satisfaction that I can't explain.
Oh yeah. You know? Well, you tend to do it better when you know why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the why.
So if I could tie this into the title of this podcast, The Entrepreneur Experience, you know, I think that in our stories, we talk about many, many different experiences, and some of those experiences are like the stepping stones for the next level,
Yeah.
Like our experience right now doing this podcast is going to be a stepping stone for something greater, you know?
Watch it grow.
And watch it grow. And then the thing is too, is like what can come out of it for us? Like we don't know. I think what we want to do is be able to help anybody who's viewing, who are going to be majority entrepreneurs or people looking into it.
Yep.
For a few things. Number one, they're not alone.
Right.
You know, we have feelings too. We're insecure too. We screw up very badly too. But also be a source of encouragement, because entrepreneurship is lonely. Like, not too many people do what we do. Therefore, we can't always talk to people about the very problems that we go through in our business, the challenges that we have in our businesses. So if we could learn from people's experiences, it's going to help us to make better decisions, I think, because something that person did, whether it's me and you only on the podcast or a guest speaker, something that they did is going to be a struggle that somebody watching is going through.
Yeah.
And an answer might come out.
Yeah.
You know?
That would be it. That would be awesome.
That's why we were doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And also to get in the nitty gritty about business, like actually talk about how business is ran, how it should be ran.
And we can use those words, and it's a little bit of an outlet. Like my wife does not, like she lets me, you know, vent at her.
Yeah.
But she can't really partake that much into the conversation. You know, it's like all these words like ROI and like
ROI.
Like, I mean, she knows what that one is, but it's like I get into it, and then she just starts going, well, let's see what Coach Joe thinks.
I like her. But yeah, and then get in the nitty gritty. So some of the people we're going to have on here are going to be experts at like marketing or budgeting or this and that, and actually talk about what it'll take. So as a viewer, the value to you is you're literally going to have courses sometimes on this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and this is for you. It's for us, but it's definitely for you. And, you know, our hope is that we get people that want to join this journey with us.
Absolutely.
And then develop their own experiences to develop their success story.
And we use the word experience for a reason.
Yeah.
Like we don't want the experience just to be to consume, but that it actually becomes of something valuable to you and wherever you are. And even if you're not an entrepreneur, but this stuff fascinates you and you just have a job, there are so many good principles that apply to your personal life, to your job that you're in. And
because entrepreneurship forces you to personally grow.
Yeah.
So some of the stuff we're going to talk about personal growth.
And there's a lot of mindset.
Yep.
So like when I was getting started too, I was like, I'm not going to start a business. I am not a business guy. I like marketing and all of that.
Right.
And what goes into it. And I would love to be a second person. And so I applied at jobs. I applied at like local video. I wanted to stay in video.
Yeah.
And then people were just saying no, or it was on contract basis.
Yeah.
And I was like,
so
I need something
limited,
consistent.
Seasonal. Yeah.
I was like, I'm looking for kind of a W-2 or like I wanted something consistent.
Do you feel like that was God saying, yeah, Jared, you're trying to run it. Like you're being a little bit like, well, who is it? Who is that prophet in the Bible that ran away from Nineveh and got
Jonah?
Jonah. You're being a Jonah in business. No, I'm just
But
joking.
I didn't know I was.
Yeah.
What if you were Jonah and you didn't know? So sometimes God, like if you're a believer, you know, even if you're not, like God will close doors.
Yeah.
And sometimes he's more of a door closer than an opener.
Yeah.
And sometimes that could be a test too. So that's hard to measure.
Sure.
Like, should I see if it's locked?
Boom. Like sometimes it's like, okay, this door's kind of open still. And I feel like sometimes God's like, well, look, let's experience a couple of things because I got to teach you something.
Yep.
You know?
And so that was that. And then he used someone named Gary V for me,
which is really weird because this guy, he's out there, especially with his language and stuff like that.
He's heavy on his language.
Yeah, but good business principles. I mean, that guy, there's no BS with that guy.
And he's so positive too. He can sound really intimidating, but he's like super positive, and he's more uplifting than a lot of Christians I know. Which is like,
agree. Yeah,
it's crazy. It's like he's so close. It's like, is he a believer? Sometimes, but
I feel like sometimes as Christians, some people, even in the entrepreneur realm, they get caught up with the fact that they think being a Christian, you can't be rich, you can't be successful, you can't be this, you can't be that. And I totally disagree with that. Like if God's called you to be, if that's your potential that God's called you to be, it's for a purpose.
Right. I mean, God used rich people in the Bible too.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. There's a guy that owned a whole
If that's
tomb.
what consumes us and makes us, then I see that. And that you don't have to be a Christian. That's just a bad money principle, is being all about the money.
Because really just stewardship and perspective.
It's stewardship. It is. Like the parable of the talents. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like he blessed the person who took the risk to go out there and double the talents. Yeah.
That's what
got
me into Bitcoin.
That person could have lost it. Hey. Crypto's awesome right now. I'm
going to take my tithe and put it in Bitcoin. And then it'll grow. And then
we are not suggesting anything like that. Jared.
Hey, I'm just being real. I have thought of it, but
of course. But no, I'm excited about this podcast and what it's going to do for people. And ultimately, we want to glorify God doing this.
Yeah.
Because we have an in with entrepreneurs, because we are an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I think my prayer was, God, I do all this business stuff. Give me a platform to use the business and my knowledge and my relationship with you to glorify your name. And that's my heart.
It's nice when that all strings together.
Exactly.
It's like, because there was a little bit of some time when I'm like, JT Visuals, is that my God calling? And it was like, I would question that. And initially, I don't know if I lied to myself or manipulated myself into thinking that.
Yeah.
But then, like, coming full circle, definitely. Hindsight is 20/20.
Yep.
So looking back, it's like I've had so many opportunities because of this.
Yep.
And God's going to use it, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Me too.
Even if it wasn't like as JT Visuals, even if that like failed.
Right.
You talking about failures too. It's like, you kind of got to redefine that, don't you? Because like you like to brag about them because what it taught you.
Yes,
am I right? Like,
absolutely.
So then it's like, was it truly a failure? Like in the end,
it was a very minute in the moment, but did it make me fail in life? Did it make me fail to success? No, it just was whether it was my fault or not, which, I got to take responsibility for everything, right? I extreme ownership, right?
Ownership, accountability, responsibility.
Boom. OAR, above the point of power. Yeah. I love that.
He has this acronym that he always uses, and it's you can have the mindset of being powerful, or you can have the mindset of being what's the one?
Powerless.
Yeah. That's hard to remember.
Right. Powerful, powerless. Yeah. What's the opposite?
But the way that I remember this too is like use the or.
Boom.
Ownership. R.
Yeah.
Use the oar to get you somewhere, like in a canoe or a boat or something.
Right. It moves you forward.
It moves you.
Ownership, accountability, and responsibility. That's powerful.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then the other one, powerless, don't get stuck in bed.
Blame, excuses, denial.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So that's how I remember.
I'm going to start using that.
Dude, do it.
Actually, you know what's so funny? I've thought about that. I don't think I've ever said that So now you've kind of like,
that's awesome.
Kind of like, I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna be like, call out to JT Visuals for this one. Yeah.
Or shout out the podcast.
Yep, in the podcast. So
maybe we can make shirts about that one.
Yep. Well, we could do a whole podcast on mindset. I mean, dude.
I think mindset will come in to every episode, but we could for sure do one that's just about mindset. There's a time I felt like my personal calling was to, and I still do feel this way. I'm here, of course, to glorify God.
Yeah.
That's the common calling.
Right.
And to make disciples.
Right.
But part of that is to like turn people's mind. And to be the facilitator to show them that there is someone greater or there's a better way. There's another perspective or there's a godly perspective,
Yeah. And to make things clear too, you don't have to be a Christian to watch this. to get value. I'm vocal about my faith because I don't want to rob the glory from my ultimate business partner, which is Jesus Christ, you know?
Yeah.
But there's so much good out of this. And yes, like if we look at it like that perspective, there's always a better way, you know? But one thing's for sure, if you don't stand for something, you fall for everything. And I feel like on a spiritual basis, like that's everything.
Wow.
You know, because there's something greater than us, dude. Like once we die, we die.
Yeah. And even a lot of people that aren't believers, they understand that spiritualism is important.
Huge.
Which is crazy to me.
Because it grounds what we do. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm excited, bro. Are you excited?
I'm excited. So
you excited? All right.
I didn't hear them.
I didn't hear them either.
No, if you're in your car, if you're in your car, if you're on your lawnmower,
right now.
Like where are you? I want to know.
Lawnmower. That's so visual.
Yeah. If you're at the gym, and you're listening to this podcast. Yeah, we want to know. Like, we're brand new. If you're listening to this episode and we're years in,
episode 1,
then shout out to you for going back to episode 1
for sure.
But if you're listening to this right when we release it, like in 2024, then give us those initial comments, and we want you to be 5-star satisfied. Yep. That's part of my business saying.
Cool.
5-star satisfied. I want people to be 5-star satisfied. Yeah. And we'll take the feedback until we are. You know, and so once you are, leave us one of those reviews and comments and a highlight specifically, because especially if you believe that little bits and pieces of this podcast will help other people or someone you know,
send it to them.
Then send it to them.
Absolutely.
So,
and if you're on YouTube, subscribe, hit the bell, right? Get notifications when we have new stuff out.
Yeah.
That's all stuff that will help us out. So.
And we're excited to be on this entrepreneur experience along with you.
Awesome.
I don't know what our common tagline will be at the end, but I know Coach Joe's, and I definitely got an outro.
Yeah.
So let them have it, Coach Joe.
Stay strong, y'all. Stay strong.
And keep on keeping on.
There we go.